Thanks for tuning into Upward Way Podcast. If you're looking to be spiritually blessed, moved, and inspired, there is no doubt you are in the right place. On our show, guests recount their encounter with Christ and how their lives have been transformed through the grace and love of God. And now, please welcome our host.
Hello and welcome to Upward Way. I am your host, Marlon Walters. My guest today is the co-founder of Heidi's Health Kitchen and also the producer of Yoga Unboxed. Ivan Raj, welcome to Upward Way.
Thank you so much, Brother Marlon.
It's my pleasure to have you here, and let me just say how appreciative I am of the fact that you have scheduled time. I know you are pretty busy to come today to share your story. Now, as we get started with this interview, I would want you to share with me just a little bit about Heidi's Health Kitchen and, what is the story behind this ministry.
Heidi's Health Kitchen was started in 2014 in New York, and the purpose of this business and ministry hybrid was to be a self-funded ministry. And Heidi Tompkins is my business partner and ministry partner. And her and I, we met at a church in New York City. And we decided, through God's providence, that we'll have to start our own business, and the business should be mission focused. And we prayed about it. And in addition to Heidi and I, our church friends, they also joined us in praying for this hybrid of business and ministry. And so God gave us a name and the logo and a business plan also. So for the last 8 years, we have been operating as a for-profit business, but at the same time, our business supports our Bible work in New York and overseas.
Sounds awesome. It's pretty interesting when you talk about having a self-sustaining ministry, because that is, I wouldn't say it's unique, but sometimes, individuals don't maybe spend enough time to think or plan about this business aspect. But as you said, it's for self-sustaining work. So it's business/ministry. So you talk about, Bible work. Just a little, how are you able to merge or combine both together?
So at Heidi's Health Kitchen, Heidi is a product developer as well, and she's a co-founder, Heidi Tompkins, and she actually makes carob truffles. So what we did was, initially we printed a Bible verse in the box in which we packed the carob truffles, and then also a quotation from Spirit of Prophecy as well, a good encouraging quotation. So the customers receive a personal touch when they open the box, carob truffles, which is called kerubis. So when they open the box of kerubis, they can read the quotations from the Bible and also from Spirit of Prophecy, which actually we thought would be an encouragement to our customers. That is one. Number two is we also have cloth tracts. So every customer, when they place an order with us, they receive a tract in their shipment. So that's another thing that we have been doing for the last 8 years. And then we also had pop-up restaurants pre-COVID. I'm not sure if it is if I ought to explain what is a pop-up restaurant. So what we did was, we did not buy a restaurant or set up a restaurant. Instead, we used to rent a coffee house when they are closed on Sundays. And then we transform that coffee house as Heidi's Health Kitchen every month, third Sunday. So on every table at our pop-up restaurants, we place a literature, basically health literature, Christian health literature, and then Christian instrumental music. And then we serve um, plant-based and gluten-free foods. We have two options, either Indian option or the Western option, and people can pick and choose before they dine. They will pick the menu, also make the payment, so we know exactly how much we have to make for the pop-up to keep our costs less. So when people come to our pop-up restaurants, it was an amazing opportunity to witness to them, to pray for them also before they leave. And we did that almost every month for 4 years, every third Sunday. So that was another way through our business we were able to communicate and make contact and befriend our customers to add value to their lives. In addition to just being a provider of good foods, we also want them to experience comfort. One of the things that all our customers said unanimously, always say unanimously, is the setup of the place. They say that they find peace when they come to our pop-up restaurant because we are very particular about playing good instrumental Christian music, and we are very particular that customers experience God's presence, which gives them peace that surpasses all understanding. And also, we're very particular about the quality of food also, because the Bible tells us whatsoever we do it unto the Lord with all our might. So we want to make sure that the food is top notch. So we don't compromise on our customer service, and we don't compromise on supporting our patrons in their spiritual walk if they need. Then the fourth is we also have organized conferences and summits, plant-based summit. The reason we did that is because we saw that there was a lot of people attributing plant-based lifestyle to Buddhism. While Buddha was not necessarily a plant-based or a vegan person, he was a vegetarian and used to consume dairy, according to Buddhism, almost every day. When someone wants to attribute a religion to a plant-based lifestyle, it's only to the Bible. No other religion has that. So we want to straighten that out in New York City. So what we did was we invited scientists and Christian speakers, Christian historians also, and we combined all these three, and then we presented talks. We had them present talks to a largely non-Adventist audience. So we did that for 3 years. And through that also, we made good non-Adventist contacts as well. And then point number five, we have offered over 75 free cooking demonstrations in New York City in the last, I would say, 6 or 7 years. We worked alongside with the personal ministries department of our church, home church in Manhattan. So the church gave us a space, and then we go in and we present cooking demonstrations to people in the community. And through that also, we have made contacts. We have had Bible students as well through cooking classes. It also gave an opportunity for our church friends to volunteer and to make contact with the attendees. So these are various ways we have tried to reach our community through business with mission as a focus.
It's a lot that you have just unpackaged, but you make it sound, oh, so easy. It's kind of like a mother going inside the kitchen and she's gonna prepare a meal for the entire, community. But because she's so fluent at what she's doing, it's kind of like just it's kind of like just having a meal as opposed to preparing for so many individuals. What I want for you to share now is your own faith journey. I know, and you have said it before, as we converse prior to coming on air, that you have this program, Yoga Unboxed. And so, you know, just for you to share, your faith journey, where and when did it begin?
My faith journey. I was born in a Christian family. I am a fourth generation Indian Christian. I was born and raised in India, and my mom was looking for answers, and so was my grandfather. He was in his late 60s and early 70s, I believe, at that time. And then he started also looking for answers when I believe he was in his early 70s. His wife passed away, and he was very down and depressed after that because they were married for many decades. And so my mom also had the same questions my grandfather had. So she started what we say church hopping. And I used to just go along with her to various denominations, various types of churches, and be a part of those denominations for a few months to a year or year and a half. Um, and then we were introduced to a Seven-day Adventist meetings that are happening in Chennai, India, and it was organized by one of our relatives, and he invited us. We went there to see him, but not necessarily for those meetings because he was very busy as the organizer of those events. My mom just sat outside along with me, and she started taking notes from what was presented at the auditorium. So she found answers, and then we started coming there every day. And then we all got baptized. My mom, myself, my grandfather. Because my mom used to take notes, take it back to my grandfather, and he used to verify if what was in the notes was accurately mentioned in the Bible. And he found that it was indeed in the Bible, and therefore he also got baptized when he was 76. And I was the youngest to get baptized at the time. He was the oldest to get baptized at that time. However, in my later teens and my early 20s, I kind of drifted away. But I did believe in God. I did believe in God. I did have faith in God, but I did not have a burden per se for God's kingdom. And in my later 20s, my mom passed away. And after that, I got an opportunity to move to the US. Um, There, I experienced what we say is wilderness times. So I was actually like thrown into the water, and I have to learn to swim. So that's what happened. So I do know that God exists, but then I wanted to know which God is real. So I also started doing some research on other religions to find out who is the real God. Like, for example, I started watching a lot of Islamic apologetics videos as to why Muslims defend Islam. Anyway, so long story short, many of these, I was just researching on many of the religions, and then I found that Christ is the Lord and Savior. And then I started praying a lot and reading the Bible and studying the Bible. And when I studied the Bible, I found some of the answers that I had personally, and I wanted to share it with people. In addition to that, I also experienced tremendous amount of peace while reading the Bible and studying the Bible. Tremendous peace and hope and joy. God put that burden on me to share it with others.
Sounds pretty interesting, as you mentioned, the idea of church hopping. So it's that search for truth or meaning that led you to an encounter or a deeper encounter with Christ, because you did say you had that Christian background to begin with, but maybe it wasn't so deep. So today, you're not only a follower of Christ, but you have this powerful ministry, Yoga Unboxed. It sounds like an action thriller, like one of those movies that are set to be released. So this idea of yoga Unboxed. What is this really all about?
So, a lot of people in the West have a blurry idea about yoga, and in the West, it is just stretching. It is just like an aerobic exercise. About 3, 4 years ago, when I was presenting talks at churches on India's role in the end times through the lens of Bible and spirit of prophecy, I just had one slide for yoga, just one slide. And it used to be like a 2-hour talk, but just one slide on yoga. Sometimes a 3-hour talk, but only one slide on yoga. But God kept showing me more and more and more about yoga, its origins, its purpose, who is behind it, and who was behind it, and who is the God of yoga, all of these things. And then I put together lectures on that. I put together slides for that. And then I sent it to my editor who to help upgrade the PowerPoints. And then he saw it and he said, "Hey, you have to make this as a video. You have to make it as like a documentary because the world needs to see this. This is so much interesting information. It's going to transform many people's lives." I initially did not want to do that because I've never done anything like that, like being in front of the camera myself and presenting a topic that is very complicated and complex. But I prayed about it for 2 weeks. I put in a lot of time in prayer for this project, and God gave the name Yoga Unboxed. So, why the words Yoga Unboxed? So, what is yoga? When I ask this question to people in the West, most people do not know what the word yoga means. So the word yoga is from the word yug, Sanskrit word yug. Yug means to unite, to link, to connect, to marry, to become one with. So the word yoga means to become one with, to unite. And if you want to know to whom you will be uniting with through yoga, it is uniting with yourself or uniting with the source of yoga, Shiva. So the word yoga means union, union of the self or union with the cosmos or the universe, the energy, Shiva, they're all one and the same person or same Hindu deity. That's the meaning of the word yoga. So every time you say, I just do yoga stretching, I don't do chanting, what you're saying is, I am uniting with myself. I am uniting with the universe. I'm uniting with the energy, uniting with Shiva. That's what you're saying when you say, I just do yoga stretching. I don't chant. There is a serpent associated with yoga, Patanjali. So Patanjali is a human incarnate of a serpent. And the serpent's name translated in English is wise serpent. So Hinduism teaches that a wise serpent took the form of a human being and wrote the precepts of yoga. So I was thinking, like, how many people know this truth? Almost none of them know this truth. When I say truth, truth according to Hinduism. This is what Hindus believe. So I wanted to bring it to the surface. I wanted to bring it to people's attention. And then what are the two main components or two main teachings of yoga? You will not surely die because you'll be reincarnated, and you are divine. There is divinity within you. You are gods, knowing good and evil. So that needs to be brought out as well. So this is all part and parcel of the history of yoga as per Hinduism. And the serpent, the wise serpent, is actually with a god, a Hindu god named Shiva. So when God showed these things to me through Hindu scriptures, and then obviously I had to compare it with what the Bible says in Genesis chapter 3, verses 1 through 7. So I'm thinking, wow, people should know this truth. So God provided the means as well to start this project, Yoga Unboxed. The videos are not on YouTube; they are on my website yogaunboxed.com for rental viewing as of now, because I have to film another 12 more episodes. I have only completed 5 episodes so far. I still have a long way to go. So the rental will help us to fund for the next forthcoming episodes. And the people who have watched it cannot deny or cannot argue. The reason I say that is because I present everything about yoga from Hindu scriptures and from a neutral standpoint. Like, this is what Hinduism teaches. This is what, for example, whether it is about wise serpent, whether it is about the Hindu deity Shiva and his attributes, his nature, his different forms, all of those are mentioned in Hinduism. But the storyline is based on Genesis chapter 3, verses 1 through 7. Because according to Hinduism, the first student was a woman who learned yoga from the god, the Hindu god Shiva. So Yoga Unbox is basically to bring awareness to people about what exactly yoga is, and that the stretching in yoga is not just stretching; it is a Hindu ritual. And the people who practice yoga stretching, especially Christians, they need to know that each of the stretch and the posture, they have a Hindu meaning attached to it. So in addition to that, there are chants that go along with, but most Christians say, I don't chant, I just do stretching. It's good for my health, it's good for my circulation. We must stretch. We must stretch. It's important we all stretch. But yoga stretching is very different from a regular non-yoga stretching. So I wanted to establish that also through Yoga Unboxed clearly. So in Yoga Unboxed, I also show the stretches and the meanings of each stretches, and mostly they're attributed to sun worship.
So just to navigate, to the points you shared about, someone practicing yoga, telling himself, telling herself, I'm not devoting any time. I'm not thinking about being, a Hindu devotee. I'm just doing my stretches. I just want to get my circulation going. So what would you say to someone like that with regards to, practicing yoga, though they are saying, I'm not thinking about offering worship?
Yeah. Yoga is one of the six schools of Hindu philosophies. And one of the six philosophies of Hinduism is called Samkhya philosophy. Samkhya means numbers. It is a theory part. It's theory, and yoga is a practical part, practical side of Samkhya philosophy. So the origin of yoga is rooted in Hinduism. That is the first point. Second point is yoga was primarily meditation for few thousands of years in Indian civilization. Starting from Indus Valley civilization, yoga was meditation. But the meditation, yoga meditation, is very different from Bible meditation. And so basically, in yoga meditation, it is looking inward, not like where the Bible teaches, like meditate upon God, meditate upon His law. That doesn't happen in yoga meditation. It is just emptying the mind and focus on certain object or certain thing, or imagine certain thing, and just fix your mind on that for hours. So few hundred years ago, when the yogis, the yoga practitioners called a yogi, the yogis couldn't meditate for long periods of time, so like for few hours. They came up with stretches in order for the body to sit in that posture to meditate, called lotus posture, lotus position, the way like generally an Indian sits, right? So in order for for the body to cooperate for long hours of meditation. They came up with stretching, the asana, the postures. And what they did was they came up with the postures based on Hindu mythology or Hindu writings. Let's take sun worship, for example. Sun worship, in English, actually, in the West, it's called sun salutation. It has sun salutation as actually Surya Namaskara. Surya means sun, Namaskara means worship. So in sun salutation, there are 12 postures, and each posture, when the person does the posture, the person is expressing physically his or her worship towards the sun god. There are benefits to this, physical benefits to this, and also a person experiences calmness in the mind also, and it gives energy through the rest of the day. But you can also get energy and calmness and your circulation going by doing a 20 minutes brisk walk. And the walk has nothing to do with Hinduism, a brisk walk. But if you do yoga stretches, if you do sun salutation, then you are subscribing to Hinduism. If you say that no, I only do the stretches, but I don't chant, I'm not a Hindu, but I do yoga stretches, that means you're offending Hindus. You're taken what belongs to Hinduism, and you're saying I just don't subscribe to Hinduism, but I just use Hinduism for my health. Okay, so the origins of yoga stretching is based on Hinduism. The yoga stretches have Hindu meanings to it, and the yoga stretches are for worship. They are a physical expression of worship, just like how Islam has 9 postures and stretches in their worship form. So these are all physical expressions of worship. And next point I want our listeners to think as well is when we go to a gym, when you exercise, when you do stretches, there are televisions in the gym which show up, entertainment and news. Or when you're going to the gym and stretching or working out for your circulation, you can listen to any music you want to. Some people even chew gum. Do such things happen in a yoga studio? In a yoga studio, nobody chews gum. People don't play rap music in a yoga studio while they stretch. And there's a sense of reverence in yoga studio. Why? Because the yoga stretches, the yoga practice is a very solemn practice in Hindu religion. So everything about yoga stretches, even if you don't chant, if you just do the postures, you are practicing.
All right, so we can't escape. We can't say that I'm just, doing workout, because by so doing, you're actually practicing something that you might very well say you're not into. With you being engaged, in ministry in such an active manner, organizing and so on, there has to be a foundation on which to build, So how do you actively pursue your own spiritual growth to ensure that you don't suffer from burnout? Because I know that's a reality of ministry.
That's a great question. Initially, when I started my faith walk and also embarked on this journey of giving Bible studies, I did push myself a lot to do a lot of things. I was, I would say, partially dependent on God and partially dependent on myself. And I noticed that every time I was like that, the mission was not fruitful. There were no results because Satan keeps us busy in areas where there is no harvest. and we'll be thinking that we are doing God's work and let's do it. So, without consulting God, without God's approval, if we embark in certain things, even under, ministry, it's not going to be fruitful. So, I learned that, I understood that, and since then, I'm very careful to what I give away my time to. So, God is part and parcel of everything I do. I pray that I will remain the same forever. So for every little thing, I pray. And this didn't come to me naturally because as humans, we don't do these things naturally. So before God put me into ministry, God put me into a very severe situation in my life, very complex and complicated situation in my life. So at that time, I was on my knees for long periods of time asking God to help. Before that, I was not on my knees to pray. I used to lie on my bed and pray. There was not no reverence. But when I got to know God and what He has done for me and the depth, I mean, nobody can understand the depth of His love. No human can, nor can angels. But to some extent, when I understood the depth of His love, then I said, wow, can't I kneel for like a minute or two before I go to sleep, or few minutes before I go to sleep? So it disciplined me. So basically, problems in my life that God allowed was to discipline me. And so this discipline of praying before I do anything and everything. So it is still part and parcel. Like for example, before I go shopping, I pray. After I shop, I say, God, thank you for this food. So thank you for these clothes. I pray. So God, when God puts the problems all around you and you are completely helpless, you have to depend on God for every little thing. So when God put me into that situation, it actually helped me, like my mind to realize that I cannot do anything without His perfect will. That is one. Second point is when we do things on our own, right? We work it out in a very hard way. We plan. We should plan, of course. We must plan. But when you do it on our own, there will be impediments and there'll be obstacles, and we'll have a roundabout way to get that thing done or to achieve the certain things. But when we depend on God, even though there is nothing in front of no hope in front of us, when we have faith in Him, and if it is His will, He will make it happen quickly and easily, therefore saving time and energy and effort. Even last weekend, when I was volunteering at a clinic organized by Adventists, there were so many miracles that God did for me so easily, and it was because of God's will. So when we depend on God, God manages our time, God manages our priorities also. When we don't depend on God, and if we do it for self glorification, for attention, and for self basically, then it will get complicated, and there will be a problem with time and priority management, and also there won't be any results.
I have heard so many individuals, saying we should work smarter and not harder. And oftentimes this is said from the point of view of, launching out, becoming an entrepreneur, becoming self-employed, things like that. But listening to you, I'm seeing that that's a model that God has prescribed to us when He says, work smarter and not harder. It's not about quitting your 9 to 5 and starting your own business, etc. But it's about consulting Him. And when you do, basically He points you in the right way. And of course, I just want to say something as you are into the middle of your testimony. I recall once at university, I had a particular final exam I was to do. And I was wondering, where do I start with the studying? And it was something similar. I went to God, asked him what to study, and he pointed me to two chapters that the teacher did not mention would be on the exam. And basically, by studying those chapters, I got information that would have been necessary for me on the exam. So I was able to pass. So I understand quite well what you mean when you say, you sometimes you become burnt out. You're doing so much, no results, because you do not consult the source of wisdom. So as I listened to you share about, this burnt out with regards to ministry, etc., there are individuals who God has called to share their faith. God has called to really dedicate their lives to Him. But for some reason, they may neglect to do so. So why do you think there are so many individuals who find it difficult to trust God's plans for their lives?
That's another great question. When a person lacks trust in God, there's only one reason, because they don't have a personal experience with God. When a person experiences God's presence in their lives, then the person will take the walk of faith, because a person knows for sure, not just Bible reading, not just Bible studying, not just singing songs of praises, but in addition to all of that, God puts the person into a situation where the person is completely helpless and has no one to go to but depend only on God. And then God comes through and answers, and the person realizes that yes, God is real. So when such things happen, not just once, several times, that strengthens the faith of the person. When the person's faith in God is strengthened, when God says go, the person goes. But a lack of personal experience, knowing God, knowing Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, when there's a lack in that, then there is also lack of faith. When there is lack of faith, when God instructs to do certain things, then the person hesitates and doesn't go far. If you take the example of Abraham, Father Abraham, when God said go, he went. And in the New Testament, we read that he was called as a friend of God. Beautiful text. I love it. And that was because God put him through all of the tests. And Abraham, even though he was not perfect, but still he knew that God was real. When Abraham was asked by God to sacrifice his son, Abraham knew it is God's voice, because he spent so much time with God. He has spent so much time with God, so he knows it's God's voice. So he acted on it to take Isaac. Obviously, God stopped Abraham from sacrificing Isaac. But so the point is, without having a personal walk with God, it is impossible to move forward in ministry life when God says go forward.
A question that pops in my head, to toss at you at this particular moment, it has to do with the idea, of expressing gratitude. You talk about, Abraham knowing God for himself. And so as a result, he was able to trust God. As you have, been sojourning in this life, along your Christian path, with your entrepreneurial endeavors, if you were to pick one individual just to say thanks to, or to give God thanks for, because of what his or her contribution has been to your life, who would this person be? And then also, why would you select this particular individual?
Definitely my mom. Yeah, because of since I was 3 years old, she taught me uh, Christian hymns, and even my grandfather also taught me Christian hymns. And she was a single parent. My mom was a single parent, and my mom was the one who actually day and night prayed for me. She prayed for me a lot. I know that. many years, and she also counseled me to to walk before the Lord, to be fearless, to be humble, to have faith in Him, and all of like who I am now is because of my mom's teachings and counsels and instilling faith in God in my heart. Definitely. So the answer to your question is my mom.
Blessed are the moms, and I could add parents who take the time out to pray for their young sons, their young daughters, presenting them before the Lord. The final question that I will toss at you has to do with, your plans, your projections to the future. Because I know as ambitious stewards of God, we are always thinking, or we are always, consulting with God, what is next. So maybe if you should expand your ministry or start something new, what might that be? And then, who would it serve? I know I kind of put it specifically expand or start, but what would you say is next that is on the horizon for you as you think about ministry, business, sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ?
So I'm the kind of person who doesn't have long-term plans. I've never had long-term plans. So I only have short-term plans. What has God given me to do at this point? That's what I focus on. So one step at a time. So right now my focus is to conduct the yoga and the Bible symposium in New York City, and then conduct similar symposiums across the US in major cities, and to bring awareness to people, to educate people, to make people think, provide all the information they need, and make wiser choices in their lives for their lifestyle and for their kids. And also have those symposium videos available later on, very near future, for people across the world to access them online. That is my objective or goal or next steps, so to speak.
What you just said, it's so unique and interesting, saying you don't usually have long-term plans. I guess maybe some of your teachers, in the past, hearing you saying that would be saying, wow, but he's going contrary to what I've taught him. But as it is, God asks us to take one day at a time. So we don't need to rush ahead of what he has, because he has told us in Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11, that he knows the plans he has for us. Those are plans to prosper us and to give us an expected end. I did say that was the last question I was going to toss at you, but at the same time, I failed to give you an opportunity to share with the listeners where and how, they could maybe access some of your content, or they could actually, connect with you. Let's say they would want to have you as a guest or something like that. So if you could just share, your website, your social media handle, that would be of benefit to the listening audience.
Awesome. Thank you. In order to support our ministry through our business, the website is heidishealthkitchen.com, and we have customers across the country. We ship across the US. We also do ship overseas as well. And so it is heidishealthkitchen.com, HEIDIS, Heidi's Health, HEALTH, Kitchen, KITCHEN, kitchen.com. So you can go to the website and you can look into the products page, and you'll see all our delicious plant-based and gluten-free products. And every purchase supports our Bible work. And if you're interested in the yoga content, so far we have 5 episodes available for rental. Obviously, you can rent it from any part of the world, and it is available at yogaunboxed.com. Yoga, the word yoga, YOGAUNBOXCD, unboxed.com. So you will find origins of yoga videos in yogaunboxed.com. And in case you're wondering what to expect as you watch those videos. Videos are like documentary slash lecture style presentations with a lot of footages that we filmed in India, and also a lot of writings from Hindu scriptures, and also interviews we filmed with the yogis and what they say about yoga. So it is a very educational content. So that is where you can find content for yoga. And yes, I'm always happy to accept speaking invitations as well. And you can contact me through yogaunbox.com if you wish for me to do any presentations.
Powerful stuff and very interesting and eye-opening because they are individuals. They will say, I'm praying to the universe. I've heard it so many times. So in essence, if we should analyze, it's actually as if they are saying, I'm practicing Hinduism. Let me say thanks today to my guest. His name is Ivan Raj. He's the co-founder of Heidi's Health Kitchen and also producer of Yoga Unboxed. Ivan, just before we go, as is customary, do you have any parting words to share with our listeners?
Yes, I would like to encourage our listeners to press forward in faith, be steadfast Christian, be unwavering. As we all know, the times around us are very tough, which calls for greater faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. And when there are trials, tribulations, problems in our lives, may we not be discouraged. May we cling on to Christ and press forward. And if God has called you to do ministry, God has given you a mission, please make sure very clearly it is God who has called you to do that particular mission, and then move forward in courage and faith in Christ, and you will receive God's blessings.
Move forward with courage and faith in God. You've been in tuned to Upward Way. Do join us again next week when we'll have another interesting guest sharing his or her story of faith. You can subscribe to weekly episodes on the Apple, AWR Loud Voice, Spotify, Stitcher, or Podcast Guru apps. You're also welcome to visit Upward Way Facebook page, click like, and leave a comment. Until then, I am Marlon Walters saying goodbye. May God bless you.
You've been listening to the Upward Way podcast, the #1 audio production show for people who want encouragement and reassurance in a muddled world.